Okay, so what I'm wanting to talk about here is continue on with Mahayana Buddhism, and specifically to talk about the doctrine of emptiness that we find in the Madhyamaka school, which was developed by Nagarjuna, all right, in the 2nd century of the Common Era. Okay, Nagarjuna, he was very much a logician, followed things through in terms of logic. And what he did is he took the teachings of Siddhartha regarding the doctrine of impermanence to its logical conclusion. Right? Where Siddhartha, or the Buddha, held that everything in reality, a fundamental characteristic of reality, is impermanence. There's nothing that exists that is of unchanging permanent substance. Okay, we talked about that before. Now, what Nagarjuna does is he takes this, follows through with this a bit more. So he says, okay, you've got, this is the realm of samsara here. Hopefully you can see this okay. Maybe I'll pull this up closer, I don't know. Okay, you have the realm of samsara here. Okay, seems like a light is shining on there. All right, oh yeah, and the light from the window, but then I need it bright. Anyways, there's the realm of samsara. There's a me, a you, a this and a that, all the different things that make up this world in samsara, okay? And nothing here is of solid, unchanging permanence, okay? And so he used the phrase, everything is empty, shunyata, empty of own beingness, svabhava. Everything is empty of its own beingness, in that me, you, this and that, none of us have some permanent, solid, unchanging substance that is the essence of us in a permanent way, nor do we exist in and of ourselves independently, right? Nothing here is permanent, nor does anything exist independently. So I'm dependent upon all kinds of things for my existence. I didn't create myself and bring myself into being, nor can I sustain myself in an independent way from my environment. I need the air that I breathe, the food that I eat, the ground that I stand on, right? I need all that is around me for me to exist. So my existence is dependent on other things. All that which is around me in my environment, for even my coming into being and sustaining my being. I do not exist independently in and of myself, okay? So that's what he means by the idea that I am empty of own beingness. I have no unchanging solid substance to myself that can exist independently, that is permanent, unchanging, and independent, right? There's nothing like that about me, about you, about this or that. So everything in this realm of samsara, all the different things that make up this world, we're all equally empty of own beingness. And so that which separates me from you, from the tree, from the dog, from a this and a that, there's no basis for separateness, because there is no being here that's distinct and separate from the being over there. There's nothing within me of substance and permanence that can actually set me apart from you or this or that. And so there's no then place for boundaries of separation, boundaries of distinction, okay? And so I am empty of my own beingness, as well as you, the tree, the dog, whatever else is out there. We are all equally empty of all beingness, or own beingness, okay? And therefore, there's no boundaries of separation, no basis for that, no basis for it whatsoever. So the result is that everything becomes one through emptiness. This is the key idea of Nagarjuna. Everything becomes one through emptiness, right? So this is what he says, all is one. So it all becomes one through emptiness, all right? Okay, hopefully that's clear. Everything, all is one through emptiness. Okay, I'll just put via emptiness, shunyata. Well, he didn't stop there. He then asks, what is nirvana all about? And if you remember what Siddhartha taught, he held that he basically juxtaposed samsara and nirvana. That samsara is a place of impermanence. It is the realm of suffering, the realm of rebirth. Whereas nirvana is the opposite. Nirvana is a place of no more suffering, no more rebirth, and he held that nirvana was permanent, that the two were juxtaposed as being, in a sense, mutually exclusive and opposite to each other, in a sense, okay? Well, Nagarjuna challenges that idea. And he then says, well, what is nirvana? Well, nirvana is of no substance. There's no substance we can give to it. We don't even know really what it is. The way the Buddha taught is, it can't be understood in terms of any concepts we have here. And, he couldn't affirm that we continue to exist, nor could he affirm that we cease to exist. He denied both eternalism and annihilationism in terms of what happens when you die. He says, it's neither of those. It's the middle way between the two. And it's like, well, what exactly is that, right? So nothing solid is ever really spoken of or affirmed regarding the nature of nirvana. So anyway, Nagarjuna, he takes things a bit further here. He says, well, there's nothing permanent we can say or solidly say in an affirmative way what nirvana is. But for sure, we know that nirvana depends upon samsara for its existence. This is the key. If there is no samsara, nirvana makes no sense. It only exists as a concept, as a reality in relationship to samsara. Because once you're set free from samsara, then you attain nirvana. If there was no samsara, nirvana wouldn't even exist. It makes no sense. Its reality can only be there in relationship to, it is dependent upon samsara. Okay? So it does not exist in and of itself. It, like everything else here in samsara, it also is dependent upon something else. It is not self-subsistent. And therefore, what is the basis then? If nirvana depends upon samsara for its existence, it's not independent and not self-subsistent. There also is nothing solidly that we can say about what it is as a substance. He basically did the same thing. The boundaries that demarcate and separate samsara and nirvana as two different things, there's no basis to that. There's no basis to any sense of substantive difference between them, okay? In a literal, substantial way in terms of substance. There's nothing there that can really separate them, differentiate them. And so, just as everything here becomes one through emptiness, he held that samsara and nirvana, they likewise become one through emptiness. And that leads to the revolutionary idea that samsara is nirvana and nirvana is samsara. They become one through emptiness. So that nirvana is then not this place up there, out there, somewhere else I need to get to, but nirvana is right here, right now. I just need to wake up to it. I just need to wake up to that. It's not someplace, something else, all right? It's here now in samsara. And that leads to this sort of becomes a part of the Mahayana way of thinking. And then, well, what is Buddhahood? Where is Buddha? What is Buddha? Is Buddha as something out there that I need to become? Is it something separate from me that I need to attain? Is there some kind of substantial shift? It's like, no, Buddha is already here now. The Buddha mind, the Buddha nature is already present here. I just need to wake up to my Buddha nature. And so just as you don't get this polarization of samsara versus nirvana, neither do you get this polarization of I'm an enlightened suffering being trapped in samsara versus a Buddha that is enlightened and set free from samsara. You no longer have that polarization and distinction. Okay? It all collapses into one. And so that now changes the meaning of enlightenment. Enlightenment now becomes one of just realizing the truth, the fundamental truth of emptiness. And the truth is that nirvana is right here, right now. It's not something somewhere else. Buddhahood is already here. I already am Buddha. I already am an enlightened one. I just need to wake up to that truth. Okay? So it's just about waking up to the truth of emptiness. Waking up to the truth that I am Buddha, you are Buddha, everything is Buddha, all is Buddha. This is Buddhahood. All there is Buddha. Is waking up to that truth. Okay? And that's fundamentally what Zen is going to be about in terms of Zen Buddhism, because Zen Buddhism is based on these key teachings of the Madhyamaka school. All right. So anyways, hopefully that helps to understand, where this is going to go. It becomes very, very important. Now, tied in with this right? He then also had to, and came up with his second key teaching. Okay, this is number one. Number two is the doctrine of two levels of truth. Okay, on the one level is there's the absolute level of truth, and then there's the relative level of truth. Okay, the absolute and relative levels of truth. On the lower relative level of truth is the truth of Buddhism. That yes, I'm trapped in the cycle of existence, in the wheel of samsara, of rebirth and suffering, and I need to get enlightened to be set free and attain nirvana. That is, and there is a Buddha, and I'm not the Buddha. There's a certain level of truth, and that is Buddhism as religion. But it's not the absolute truth. The relative truth of Buddhism is just a vehicle, the means, a way of helping you get to the higher truth, the absolute truth, the real truth of emptiness. So you use Buddhism to get to the higher truth of emptiness. Once you get to that higher truth and realization of the doctrine of emptiness, you can throw away Buddhism. Okay, you can just chuck it away. It's not the absolute truth. It's just a vehicle, a method, a means of getting you to the higher truth of emptiness. So in a film that I recommend, it's a pretty old film done in Japan, where the Zen abbot is being interviewed. And the Zen abbot says this, and this is classic of Zen: to those who know, who really understand, those who know what Buddha is really, and I'm quoting him, okay? For those who really know what the Buddha is really, there is no Buddha, because it's all is the truth of emptiness. There really is no Buddha out there as somebody that I need to become or something. There is no Buddha. But for those who do not know what Buddha is really, who do not get what it's really all about, i.e. the truth of emptiness, right? For those who don't know what Buddha is really, the relative level, there is a Buddha. Okay, there is a Buddha. And so he very much epitomizes, embodies that key idea of two levels of truth. And so this is why in Zen, you don't get the usual stuff. You don't get the usual literally worshiping a Buddha, praying to a Buddha, all that stuff. You just don't get it. The focus is just on meditation, and the goal is to awaken to the truth of emptiness and to awaken to the truth that I already am the Buddha, the Buddha nature within. I am Buddha, you are Buddha, everything is Buddha, and it's just to wake up to that. That ends up being the goal, okay, of Zen. So that's the Madhyamaka school, okay? Now, as I mentioned before, Zen is basically the meditation school as it becomes known in Japan, okay? That's in Japan. And it was brought there around 1200, and it came from China. And in China it's known as Chan, and then which came over, actually in the year 520 is when it came over, okay, by Bodhidharma. And in India, the meditation school is known, the Sanskrit word is jhana. Okay, that's a Y. Jhana. So the word Zen is from the Chinese word Chan, which is the Chinese word for the Sanskrit word jhana, which means meditation. So it's just the meditation school as it goes from India to China and then to Japan. Okay, and so this is a 520. And so the meditation school is held. It goes way back to the time of Siddhartha himself. This is the story, the tradition here. And that the Buddha one day gave a sermon without words, the wordless sermon, where he had all his disciples in front of him. And from the Buddha himself, he passes on what's called the lamp of enlightenment to Kashyapa. Kashyapa was there in the audience as Siddhartha is just sitting there, and they're all in front of him. And he picks up and holds a flower, a lotus flower. And everybody is waiting for this sermon, this message, this profound teaching from Siddhartha. And Kashyapa all of a sudden, he gets it. He becomes enlightened. And Siddhartha nods his head and he says, to Kashyapa, I pass on to you the lamp of enlightenment. All right? And the light of enlightenment, of seeing the truth of things, is something that gets transmitted from the master to the disciple beyond words, without the use of words, without the use of texts, without the use of studying Buddhist philosophy, but it comes through meditation and a spiritual kind of awakening to the truth of emptiness. This is sort of the idea here, okay? It's always seen as emptiness already. But that enlightenment comes only through meditation, not through religious rituals, prayers, the study of texts, or philosophizing and overly rationalizing things. It's just through meditation you come to the awakening. You become awakened. And so the lamp of enlightenment gets passed on to Kashyapa, and it's seen as a lineage of transmission to the patriarchs. So he is the first patriarch who receives the lamp of enlightenment, and it gets passed down, dup, 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 dup. And Bodhidharma is the 28th patriarch who brings it over to China, okay, around 520 CE of the Common Era, around 520. And so Buddhism had already been there, had arrived around 100, and a lot of the focus was on translating a lot of the Sanskrit texts into Chinese, fortunately, because then we have the Chinese collection of texts there and scriptures, because a lot of this gets destroyed in India when the Muslims destroy the Buddhist university that had a lot of the Sanskrit Mahayana texts that get destroyed there in northern India. And so anyways, fortunately, they have these scriptures there. They're translating them, studying them, discussing them. Also, Pure Land Buddhism had come into China by now, and that was very much focused on prayer to Amitabha Buddha, that to guarantee that this is your last life, and you can be then brought into his heaven up there, the Western paradise, and from there, Amitabha Buddha will bring you to Nirvana. So you can be guaranteed this is your last life here on miserable planet Earth. And so that was sort of the idea of Pure Land Buddhism. And so Bodhidharma, he comes to China and thinks, wow, you got your Pure Land Buddhism, and you're studying all these texts and translating and discussing and analyzing the scriptures. You're totally missing what Buddhism is all about. Buddhism is about meditation. Right? So he establishes the meditation school in China, and is very well renowned at that, and is associated with the Shaolin Temple in China. And so from there, it then splits into two schools in the 800s, okay, a bit of a difference of opinion over whether or not enlightenment is sudden or gradual, okay, so it splits into two schools in the 800s, and I talk about this in another video, and then that is brought into Japan, and Japan, they then are known as the Soto school and the Rinzai school, okay, and the Soto is a gradual school of enlightenment, and the Rinzai is sudden, because that's what they split over in China, is whether or not enlightenment is something that happens gradually or suddenly. And then it gets well established in Japan and has huge impact on Japanese culture. Okay. And so a key thing that is held here in Zen, and I don't want to repeat myself because I talk about this in another video with slides a bit, is that it's increasingly it's held that the mind and the rational mind with its analysis of things is always disconnecting and separating us from the present moment and from reality as it is. Okay. So, for example, I will have an experience of some kind. I might be watching a beautiful sunset, and then I'll sit back and I'll philosophize about the meaning of the sun rising and setting every day. And I can kind of philosophize about it, analyze the beauty, analyze the science behind it, whatever. My mind will go on, right? Analyzing, discussing, philosophizing, what have you. But what all that does is it creates a separation between me right here and the reality out there of that sunset. It's like a separation occurs through the workings of the mind. And what Zen wants to do is just get rid of that. Just be fully present in the raw moment and the experience of the raw moment, being fully present to it in its isness. They talk about the isness of things, the isness of the present moment, the isness of this or that. Just there, get rid of how the mind always objectifies and then disconnects and separates us, right? So you want to be fully present in that moment. And then with that is that whole idea that ultimate reality is right here in the present moment, in the rawness of the present moment, and in the simplicity and mundaneness of the present moment. Okay? Because we tend to think that ultimate reality, nirvana, is like up there, out there, somewhere else, far away from me, and I have to strive to get there, reach to get there, that it's out there, out there, out there, and it's not here. And there's this sense of separateness and distance and a barrier between where we are now, who I am, and the present moment with nirvana, ultimate reality, Buddhahood, and awakening, right? And it's that kind of distance that wants to get collapsed here. So that is taught, as I mentioned earlier, with Madhyamika, with Nagarjuna's idea, right? Nirvana is right here, right now. Ultimate reality is right here, right now, in the present moment. And in the present moment, in its mundaneness, in its ordinariness. Okay, and that's why you'll have something like the green tea ceremony, taking the most mundane everyday activity, like making your morning cup of java, all right? For them, it's green tea, all right? Just the most mundane, ordinary, unspiritual thing you could think of, right? To take that and be fully present in this and treat it, though, this right here, right now, making the tea. Putting the tea in the cup, boiling the water, stirring it, hearing the sound, smelling it, seeing it, feeling it, being fully present in the experience of making the cup of tea. That you're being fully present to the present moment in its mundaneness, that this right now is ultimate reality. And it's not something out there somewhere else that I have to strive for. It's right here and right now, in the mundane, in the ordinary, okay? And so this is what Zen will do. It'll bring in those kinds of practices that hone in on the key idea. And then, of course, it has huge impact in terms of Japanese culture and art. So you'll have the haiku poetry, okay? A haiku poem, where it's restricted to just a few words, where you want to capture the essence of the moment, and be something like, frog leaps out of pond, sound of splashing water. And that's the poem. And you think, well, there's no philosophizing, there's no deeper meaning behind it. It's like, no, that's the whole point. It's just capturing the very essence of that moment and that experience of what is. And that's it. This is ultimate reality. Just simply, frog jump out of pond, sound of splashing water. End of story. Don't get into philosophizing, and all that separates you from the ultimacy of the present moment in its raw isness, okay? Hopefully that all makes sense, okay? It's kind of the gist, the feel, the vibe of it. And and a common symbol in Zen is the empty circle, okay? It's a very common symbol in Zen because it just seeks to embody the doctrine of emptiness. Nirvana is here and now. I already am Buddha. So are you. So is this. The dog has Buddha nature. Whatever. Okay, that's just a part of the whole scenario here. I know there's something else I want to say. I forget now. Right now. And so there was a bit of an issue. And this is one thing I want to highlight, where generally speaking, because again, you'll have different schools and different interpretations. There's always a huge amount of diversity in every religion. But just to kind of highlight a bit of an emphasis here of how Zen might be different from some teachings you'd get maybe in Hinduism. Okay, because it's quite ironic that what you see happening here, where Siddhartha, he rejected the concept of Atma and Brahman, a universal essence that's the source of all of life, that is the essence within me, the soul, and within you, and that all is one through Brahman, the supreme being, who is the source and essence of all. you have a similar kind of idea developing in Mahayana Buddhism, right, through the triple body doctrine of Dharmakaya, that there is a sort of universal Buddhahood, this essence of Buddhahood in all things, that I am Buddha, you are Buddha, all is one through emptiness, all is one through Buddhahood, in a sense, right? Everything is Buddha. It's like, wow, okay, well, we just have different labels. Now all is one through Brahman, but now it's all one through Buddhahood. A similar concept, right? But generally speaking, what you would find more in the Hindu thought is that you need to see past the outer appearance of a separate form. You need to see past the outer form of a tree, or the outer form of a horse, or the outer form of me as Linda, or whoever, right? You need to see past that illusory self, the Maya, the appearance, and realize that the essence within, that essence of clay, of which we make a form of a tree and the form of a dog, and this person, that person, give it different names, and so we think they're different things, but they're really not. It's just the one essence of clay, just like there's only the one essence of divinity, right? But you need to see past those outer illusions and appearances to the inner essence that is all God. Okay, that's sort of the Hindu way. But here in Zen, what be held is like, no. The dog as a dog in its dogness is Buddha. The tree in its treeness as a tree is Buddha. It's not that there is a hidden Buddhahood of, Buddha essence within the tree, and I need to see past the illusion of the outer appearance of a tree, that within it is this inner hidden essence of Buddhahood. It's like, no. All right? Because that's a big mistake. That's not at all what they would teach. They would hold what you're doing is you're setting up a duality of a difference between the outer form and an inner essence. And that is violating the doctrine of emptiness, that is all one through emptiness. And there are no such distinctions. And so they would teach that, no, the dog, as a dog in its dogness, is Buddha. Me, who I am in my amness, as Linda, is Buddha. The tree, the you, the this, the that, in just what they are, is Buddha. So it's not a hidden essence hiding behind an outer appearance of Maya or illusion. Okay, and that's where there's a big difference. Just so you know, and you will have different perspectives all over the place. East, West, Hinduism, many different perspectives. Even in Buddhism and Zen, different perspectives. But just to be aware that you'll find that sort of teaching, and that's sort of common in Zen, and you have these sort of differences. Okay. So I think that's all I'm going to say on this, just to give you a bit of an idea, along with the other video that I did with slides as to what Zen is a bit about, and hopefully you understand it.